Hi everyone, this is Chris. Welcome back to the channel, and this is your daily news. So, markets be whack, and it seems like we've been saying that all year. Let's just jump right in. We've got some crazy stuff going on with the bank stocks. You can see this here. PacWest Stock surges 80%. Regional banks recover after sell-off. This is not healthy. It's not healthy to like fall, 60%, then go up 80%, and then maybe tomorrow we're going to go down by, 40%. Who knows? We saw this kind of drama with both Silicon Valley and First Republic, the way that the stocks move, and we're heading into the weekend. So if there's some sort of crazy deal this weekend, we'll know that this is the recurring pattern. So we've seen this stuff before. I'm not going to come out and say 100% what's happening, because this is all rumors and conjecture at this point. I mean, look at this. You can see here. This is the banks came out and said basically short sellers are manipulating the market. Short selling comes under fire as regional banks sell off, and that was the was like the Association of Banks were saying that. And if you guys are following this drama yesterday, it was PacWest. They had these rumors coming out that they were looking for options either to raise capital, maybe sell off the company, that kind of thing. And then it was Western Alliance had some rumors coming out as well. And then they came out and denied said rumors. And this is why we're getting these crazy movements. So if there is indeed sort of like, how can I say, nefarious things where people are leaking completely false information, I mean, that certainly has some legal implication involved. I have no idea. I honestly have no idea who's leaking what. And this is something that you certainly would want to look at, because we don't want our markets to be like this. It's completely unhealthy. 80%, up a day, 50% down another day, etc. So yeah, PacWest is up. I can see right here as a recording, 79% up, and then 82% down on the year still. This is something that the SEC is looking at in regards to insider stuff. So you can see here it says SEC investigates trades by First Republic executives before the sale to JP Morgan. One of the things that I mentioned to you guys before is that there was reported the CEO over at First Republic, he was like giving money and jobs to his, I think it was like his brother-in-law and his son. And the way that they do these kind of sales, and it was the same with Silicon Valley, is they usually schedule stock sales in advance, right? And so you'll have to prove that they had any kind of inside information or something like that that was not available to the public, and then they were making moves. But usually the way that they protect themselves is they schedule it way well in advance. So we'll see on that. Jobs data came out today. Unemployment is like crazy low. It's 3.4%. And this is what makes the market so funky, is that the Fed is trying to control inflation, as you guys know. So what was inflation? We're like 4 or 5% in that range. Also, they keep saying that they're trying to get inflation down to 2%. And, one of the things that we've been talking about is that people have been losing their jobs, yet the unemployment data still seems to be okay. There's a couple caveats with this, and I mentioned this several times in the channel. And what we've been seeing is with, like, say, financials or tech, people are losing their jobs in sort of like the well-paid, high-paying jobs. But the jobs that are hiring is things like, Walmart, Chipotle, those kind of things. So, you certainly have a shift into where the jobs are. So yes, in my opinion, there will always be a job in America. That's my opinion. It's been like that for a long time. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the job that you want. All right. And I want to make a clear distinction on that, but there will always be a job. And I mentioned this before several times. I think there's a lot of opportunity in the trade jobs, which actually pay quite well. And considering that, if you can get into some of these things, and we have people in the community who do this stuff, be it like electrician or alternative energy, car repair, and you can make 6 figures, which is totally fine. I can't remember, someone in the community can come on again. I can't remember which one it was, but they were saying they did over 200,000, which is totally fine totally fine. So yeah, look at the trade jobs if you are looking for stuff. That'd be my opinion on that, because I don't think tech or financials are where you want to be, because they're not hiring. Some of the other data as well this was an interesting one. They actually mentioned people who look like me, which they usually don't do, but I'll read it here. It says, unemployment rate sinks in April for Black and Hispanic workers, but holds steady for Asians, right? People look like me. Then it says here, unemployment rate declined sharply for Black workers, falling to 4.7 in April from March's level of 5%. The rate also came down for Hispanics, dropping to 4.4 from 4.6. However, the rate held for Asians at 2.8%. Now, if you look at CNBC, they do show you some numbers on these things. You guys can see it for yourself. So unemployment is going down for all groups. However, this is sort of where it gets a little bit tricky. So labor participation is ticking up the last couple of years, but there is a caveat on this. If you actually look at the actual report from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, I'm looking at it right here, and I'll read a quote from them. This is again coming from there, from the BLS. So it's different than CNBC. Both the labor force participation rate at 62.6% and the employment population ratio at 60.4% were unchanged in April. These measures remain below their pre-pandemic February 2020 levels, which were 63.3% and 61.1% respectively. The reason why I mentioned this, again, this is the Bureau of Labor Statistics. They're saying they're looking back to numbers at February 2020, which is interesting where you look at the CNBC stuff. They're only showing you back to 2021. So everything always depends on your perspective, and I always encourage you guys to read everything. Now, a couple of things that my understanding of what is been kind of going on the last few years, and it sort of represents our overall culture in the U.S., but not just U.S., I think it's around the world. We have these same situations to where, during the pandemic, a lot of people lost their jobs. That was definitely in restaurant service, these kind of things, and no one was going out during the pandemic. Also, too, people started working from home, and then some people actually just left the job market entirely. A lot of people retired. They got to a certain age, and we'll say, for example, the airlines and the airlines are really slowing down, and then the airlines had to essentially pay a bunch of severance pay for these kind of people, and there was just a lot of changes in the market. And then we also had immigration slowing, which matters quite a bit for several types of jobs. And yeah, I mean, you guys know this, like all these different changes were happening. And so kind of like if you want to use the word reset, you can say that, we're trying to figure out, okay, so how many people are indeed coming back to work, right, that want to, and then you're trying to figure out what the numbers are. The other thing is we've talked about as well was the JOLTS. I can't remember what it stands for. It's like the jobs. I'd have to look it up, but it's a government report. But they were saying sometimes some of these numbers aren't so great because of when they send out, the government sends out the surveys, people don't necessarily respond. The companies don't necessarily respond. So my overall thoughts in these things are just a couple, and I share this stuff all the time with you guys. Regardless of what national numbers say or not, it always depends on your individual situation, right? So let's say unemployment's really high, like 10%, but you got a great job and you just got promoted, you're doing fine, right? Whereas the opposite, let's say unemployment numbers are low, but yet you just got fired, you're not doing great. So it's more important to you and your livelihood to talk about like what's happening in your world. So yes, we're talking about the overall thing. For sure, we're talking about both things, right? What's happening with you and what's happening all around. That's why I always ask you guys in this community, what's happening in your companies and in your industry, because it's good to hear from different people, and it's going to depend on region as well, quite a bit. The thing that stands out to me though is like if the Fed is indeed trying to essentially slow down the economy. I mean, the numbers, the way that things keep going, right? Well, looks like we're still looking to hire people, etc. The other thing that I was thinking about as well is when the Apple numbers came out, and it's funny because like we looked at the numbers just yesterday, and they weren't like crazy spectacular. It didn't fall off a cliff, right? So kind of the issue that we're talking about is, are we just going to be a period to where we're not necessarily crashing, but we're just not growing, right? That could be a situation. Then we have high, interest rates, et cetera. Like we're looking at like a stagflation kind of environment. That's sort of what seems to be signaling. And one of the things that was interesting though, because we've also talked about, like, for example, it was just yesterday, and this is where our markets are funky. It changes like every day and it's unhealthy. Like it was just yesterday, I think it was been energy and financials have been leading the markets down. And then today you have, energy coming back. You could make the case that this is just short sellers covering their positions, and this is just, market movements, not necessarily fundamentals, because there was some concern about the demand of energy with the recession coming. However, too, if you want to look at what the market's betting, I'm just showing you guys numbers. This is where it gets really funky. So in the June meeting, it's talking about the Fed. At the moment, this is just what the market's betting, right? I'm saying, I'm just showing you numbers. So the market's betting that I guess there's going to be a pause, 91% probability in June, so no change in rates. And then what's really crazy, and I'm not sure if I'm buying this. I just find it crazy, to be perfectly frank, that the market is betting here that there'll be a rate cut in July, and then a pause in what was this in also in July. So that's what 36% chance of cut, and then like a 58% chance, and that doesn't even add up to 100 there, does it? No, yes, it does. I take it back, it does. And then a 5% chance of a 25 basis point hike. So you can pause the video and check out those numbers for yourself. But I'd be curious your guys' thoughts on this. I just think, like, would the Fed really cut in July? Is that even on the table? I mean, maybe the market knows something that we don't. I just find it kind of odd, and I just feel like at this point, the market's looking for ways to like keep things pumped up, and it just doesn't honestly make sense to me. Like, I don't know why would we be pumping when interest rates are still elevated, and I guess they're betting their cut in July, but 36% chance of what the market's saying. But I'm not seeing it. The Fed has never indicated that, and inflation is still high, unless theoretically inflation just comes down suddenly in like a month or so. But I don't see it, especially with unemployment still low. That means we're paying people, and also said it was saying to wage growth is still up there. So we'll see. Guys, our market be whack. I don't know what else to say. The other thing is some people are making deals. So we've talked about how the deal making is slowed. So here, Shaquille O'Neal, Kenya Barris, and 50 Cent. So I don't know who Kenya is, but if you guys know, please chime in the comments. But they're looking to buy BET, which is kind of interesting. BET Media. We don't talk about that much on this channel. But I always think it's fascinating to look at these kind of situations where some people are making deals. So it's not like all deals are completely slowed. Like this is an example, and media, there might be opportunity because right now advertisers are really pulling back on spending for that kind of stuff. So this is where they're hurting. Like, for example, we didn't mention before in the channel, I want to say it was Vice News or Vice Media, I'm not sure what you call it, but I think they declared bankruptcy. And I know that BuzzFeed was firing a bunch of employees. I have a friend that works over there, and I didn't even know this. He said he got laid off in December. So I haven't heard any info on like what's going on with, say, like BET. Okay, so what it is, it would say here, it says CVC Capital Authentic Brands on a potential deal for owner of, so it's VH1 and BET. Interesting. There's a whole bunch of interesting things going on with this. And one of the things too, just talking about our media landscape as a whole, it's been happening for a while to where we have a fragmented media. I mean, you're watching my channel, like, for example, and we're a very small channel over here, but we are part of the media essentially. But it's very fragmented, meaning that people get their information from a variety of sources, and there's more choices than ever before. And this is part of the democratization of media, which can be good and bad. The good points meaning that we all have a voice. The bad points meaning that people can just like randomly make stuff up, and there's not particularly laws or things like that, because it's just too hard for the government to enforce. And this would be like the FCC kind of stuff like that. So always fun to hang out and to talk with you guys. Love to hear your opinion on this stuff. Again, for me, the biggest crazy story today is the movement in the bank stocks, and I find it just completely unreal. And we'll see if there's any deal made this weekend. If it turns out that the rumors were true that they're exploring, this would be either PacWest or Alliance if they're exploring some sort of deal. So we'll find out this weekend. And stay tuned because there could be more. So thanks again for watching, everyone, and I'll catch you next video.